Hello everyone, I'm Chris Polo. Welcome to episode 3 of the Polo Show. Be sure to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. And also be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on those notifications so you can be notified when the latest episodes drop. So here's what we've got on the agenda today. We're going to be doing all basketball today. I don't want to go really repetitive with the same football stuff over and over. I'm not going to buy into the whole clickbait stuff of trading George Kittle and all that stuff. It's just nonsense. I'm going to wait till we get some actual news coming out of there, get closer to free agency. So today, we're going to be really focusing on the NBA, and I got a lot of stuff to say about the Warriors today, and I've got some good numbers to give a little bit of context to certain things about how their season's been going so far. I'm going to tell you how concerned I am. I'm going to tell you to the level of my concern and how I think the rest of their season is going to shape out as they currently look right now. And also, just going to kind of give an early preview into the NBA playoffs and what I expect from the teams in the West and the East. Going to go into, will the Lakers even make the playoffs? That's a legitimate question. Will LeBron James even make the playoffs? It's a legitimate question right now. And let's go ahead and dive into it because we're going to start with the Warriors. There was a game against the Dallas Mavericks Sunday night, as we all know. And wow, was I actually not surprised about how horribly wrong everything went. Let's just get real about something. I was going to say, can the Warriors hold on to the second seed? That was the question I actually was about to ask. But you know what? Let's be real about this. It's beyond the second seed or the third seed, or if they fall the fourth seed. They're not going to win a championship this year. They're not. Like, just be real. Like, just watch the team that is on the court. Watch with your own two eyeballs and tell me that that's a team that's ready to win a championship. You realize it's really tough to go through an NBA playoff tournament. When you're going through, you got to get through 3 teams in the West. You got to beat all those teams 4 times first. And then you need to face the best team in the East. There's no way that the way this Warriors team is constructed right now, the way that they're playing, there's no way they get all the way to the finals. And it's not just them, it's also you look at the way Phoenix and Memphis are playing. I don't expect them to be better than that. It's really surreal because this is a year where I thought they were the title favorites. I thought, middle of the year, oh my gosh, they don't even have Clay, and wait till they add Wiseman. Okay, well, they've added Clay. But it's more than just the fact that Draymond's been out. It's the fact that they're not going to get Draymond back soon enough. Okay? Because when you look at the game that they had against Dallas, that absolute collapse in the second half. You had a 21-point lead. You blew that. You had less turnovers than the Dallas Mavericks, and you still lost. You had 13 points in the fourth quarter. Steph Curry played a great game. I was really tough on Steph Curry last episode. I was really going in there, and I stand by everything I said, but I can't get on Steph Curry for these last 2 losses. The last night's game, and he had a great game when they first came back, so I can't really get on Steph Curry because of the last 2 games. I mean, he didn't even have to play in the fourth quarter because they did so well against Portland, and my hopes were like way up here because what I saw was after that great All-Star game performance, which is awesome, my mindset was like, okay, maybe this will give Steph Curry a lot of confidence and also a mental reset to go into the post-All-Star break portion of the regular season and just kick some ass and get his efficiency back up and play with more energy. And that's what I thought I saw. I thought the energy level was back for the whole team. And it looked like it was the same thing in the first half against Dallas. But something happens in the second half of games now, and especially when games get close, the Warriors can't come up with the win. They just don't. No lead is safe for Golden State. That's what I've learned. Like, you look at the Utah game, it was close the whole time too, and then all of a sudden their offense just disappears. Something happens in the second half where they just disappear. You look at the Denver game when they were up by double digits, and then they just allowed a whole collapse all the way to the very end. I mean, this was really close to like the way the Denver game turned out, but it was worse. It was worse because of that huge run that you allowed to Dallas. It was worse because you didn't go out there and turn the ball over like 22 times. You were actually okay. You won the turnover margin. So I really don't understand how you're blowing these games. And you could say whatever you want about them being shorthanded. I understand. Okay, I understand the numbers, and I'll talk about all the numbers too, like when Draymond Green's out. I get it. But when you have role players, a lot of these guys are going to be playing in the playoffs. You need to come up and get more than 1 point in a string of a few minutes if you want to win any types of playoff games. Because in the playoffs, defense is going to get tighter. You're going to get less foul calls. You're going to get less open 3-point shots. Games are going to be decided when they're very close. And if you can't come up with baskets late in crunch time when it matters most, what the hell do the other 3 quarters of good basketball matter? If you can't get the job done, what does it matter that you played good in the first 3 quarters? Seriously, this team finds a way to lose games. They find a way to give the team another chance. It's almost like they have Jimmy Garoppolo syndrome. Of just, it looks like they're looking for a way to allow the other team to steal the game away from them. That's what it looks like. My eyes are not lying to me. I can see it, and I see it in the numbers too. And I put a lot of that on Steve Kerr in the Dallas game. And the reason I'm really digging into the Dallas game is it was so awful in so many areas. Steph Curry plays a great game. 27 and 10. He's got 24 assists his last 2 games. I can't put any blame on Steph Curry there. And yeah, you could look at, oh, well, he missed those shots later in the game. I get on Steve Kerr because he didn't put Steph Curry back in the game early enough. I don't give a shit if you're afraid to play him 40 minutes in a regular season game. You know how close the gap is between you and Memphis for that second seed. Like, they understand this. And I remember watching the game and I was like, okay, Dallas is giving them the business. They're clearly going to, this is real. Like, they really came back. And I look at the clock and there's 5 minutes left. And I'm just thinking to myself, why is Steph Curry on the bench? He's not even at the scorer's table yet to check in. Why is he on the bench? He's sitting down on his chair. That shouldn't happen. You're afraid, okay, so he's at 38 minutes, or he finishes the game at 38 minutes. You're afraid to play him 40 or 41. What do you think you're going to have to do in the playoffs when these games get close? You think in the playoffs you can just, okay, well, you know, I need your minutes for the next game. You can't think like that. You need to get these guys ready for the playoffs. You need to get them ready for playoff situations because that was a playoff team you just lost to. You could see them in the playoffs. They had their best players on the floor going at you, clawing back into this game, and you were sitting comfortable with your lead, trying to preserve minutes. Steph Curry didn't even play 30 minutes in the game before. He sat. He only played 27-ish minutes, I believe, against Portland. His minutes were preserved last game. You can afford him a couple extra minutes in a game against Dallas when you're trying to hold on to that 2 seed, because Phoenix lost the same day. With Chris Paul being out, if you have any chance to capture that first seed, like let's say they just go on a really bad string of games, you take any chance you get. You need to win as many games as you can because you don't want to fall down on the 3rd seed. I mean, it's not the end of the world if you do, but it's not something you ideally want. Now, they shot 28% from 3. That's not going to get it done. But the big one to me really also was that they shot 60% at the free throw line. Like, these are all things in the playoffs. Like, if you can't hit your free throws, a lot of these games are going to be decided by single digits. Free throws matter. That's a huge difference if you're not hitting your free throws. You can't be a bad free throw shooting team either. You can't be just an average free throw shooting team when you have the 2 best free throw shooters in the league really on your team. I mean, Jordan Poole and Steph Curry. They've been so accurate at the line. They've been the most efficient really all season long. How are you missing so many free throws as a team? Because then if you take them out of it, I don't even want to know what that percentage is. Or even if you take one of them out of it. And it was just a matter of Steve Kerr, I thought, did a terrible job of managing the game in the 4th quarter, but also no one showed up. Which to me is even more reason to put Steph Curry in the game if you clearly see that no one on your team is having a night. Moses Moody, if you're playing 25 minutes, I don't care you're a rookie, dude. You need to give me more than 5 points. If you're playing 25 minutes, I need more than 5 points from you. Jordan Poole had 4 points, okay? He made 4 free throws. He went 0 for 7 from the field. This is a dude who averaged like 16 pretty much all year. Like, you're going to give me 0 from the field? Take away those free throws, and that's a goose egg. You can't do that in the playoffs. You're the 6th man. You're supposed to be the spark off the bench. You're supposed to play that Jordan Clarkson type role where you come in and be a go-to scorer, really, when we put in the second unit. That can't happen. like 8 weeks from now. That's not going to be able to happen. You can't do that. This is not enough. Andrew Wiggins was okay. He was okay. It wasn't his best game, but he was okay. He was fine. He wasn't bad. He missed some free throws, but other than that, he was okay. Gary Payton played really well. Kevon Looney did pretty good too. It's just not enough. Like, no one was showing up late in the game. No one stepped up. It could have been a matter of just get a couple baskets or get like 4 free throws, and that could have offset a lot of the momentum. And then Steve Kerr waiting too long to put Steph Curry back in the game. It was just a complete mess. And the reason that it's really important or the reason these games are really important is because if you look at the Grizzlies, they're only 1.5 games behind Golden State. They're right on their ass. And if you look at the last 30 games, you can clearly see that the Grizzlies are going to pass up the Warriors. If the Warriors don't make a change, I don't know what that change is, but if something doesn't change, they're going to lose the 2 seed and they're going to be the 3 spot, and they may even lose that spot to the Jazz. In the last 30 games, the Golden State Warriors are 18-12. That's awful. They're 18-12 in the last 30 games. The Grizzlies are 23-7 in their last 30. Not only that, get this, for even more context as to why I think the Grizzlies are going to catch the Warriors and take the 2 seed from them. If you look at the strength of schedule, so if you look at post-All-Star break, so this includes the few games that have already been played, but if you look at the post-All-Star break remaining schedule for the regular season, strength of schedule, the Warriors have the 7th toughest schedule post-All-Star break. Their opponent win percentage is a little over 51%. So they have the 7th hardest schedule in the whole league post-All-Star break, playing the way they're playing right now with Draymond Green out. The Grizzlies have the 3rd easiest schedule post-All-Star break. Their opponents the rest of their season are winning 47% of their games entering the post-All-Star break. So 1.5 games behind Golden State, knowing those facts. Oh, Golden State, you're losing that 2 seed. You're losing it. Like, what was like, oh, can they hold the 1 seed at one point is now, I don't even know if you can hold the 3rd. I don't. Utah's sitting right behind you at, I think it's like maybe 4 some games. Not 100% sure. I think it's like 4, maybe 4.5 games. But the way that you're playing right now gives me no reason to believe that you're going to hold even that. And it's just been really bad. It's been really, really bad. And there's some keys to me of what the Warriors need to do, finishing the regular season and also carrying into the playoffs. The number one thing, of course, they need Draymond Green back as soon as they can. And as soon as he can get back, they need him back as soon as possible, because you can't go into the playoffs with like 5 games with your true starting lineup playing and expect to just go compete for a championship when the games are at the highest stakes and they're the most intense. I know that him and Steph and Clay have played together, but Andrew Wiggins has never played in a lineup with Steph, Clay, and Draymond. The same way that guys had to learn to play with everyone, like Clay had to come back and learn to play with these other guys, even though he's played with Steph for a while. Draymond's going to need to kind of relearn how to play with Clay. Clay's going to have to relearn how to play with Draymond just a little bit to at least get that rhythm, because in the playoffs, those are not games where you can say, oh, let's get into rhythm. You need to already have that going into it if you want to be able to compete, because all these other teams that you're playing that are legitimate contenders, they have all that shit figured out already. The Suns have that figured out. The Grizzlies have that figured out. The Grizzlies won a stretch of games without John Morant playing. In my opinion, if John Morant didn't get injured at that time, or if they just didn't win as many games as they did when he was out, I think he'd be the number 1 front runner for MVP right now. He'd be the front runner for MVP. It wouldn't be Embiid, it wouldn't be Jokic, it would be John Morant. So they need Draymond back, because they need that facilitator. They need that person to be the heartbeat of the team. That's what he is. But also, they need to make sure they take care of the ball. And I'm saying that, I know that they didn't really, get too careless with the ball in the Dallas game, but it is something they're very susceptible to. They've always been susceptible to committing a lot of turnovers, especially if Draymond Green is out, because they're trying to find new ways to initiate offense. And I think Steph Curry has done a really, really good job at facilitating that offense and being a playmaker really this whole year. But he's been stepping up to do that as Draymond Green's been out. But the sweet number for them is 16. 16 turnovers. When the Warriors commit less than 16 turnovers, okay, that's why I'm bringing this up. When they commit less than 16 turnovers, they're 27-11. That's pretty good. 27-11, you'll take that. Now, there have been 23 games this year. There have been 23 games this year where the Warriors have committed more than 16 or 16 minimum, 16 plus turnovers, right? In those 23 games, they're 16-7. 16-7 versus 27-11 is a big difference. So that's another aspect. They need to take care of the ball the rest of the year if they want to hold on to that 2 seed. Those are keys, because obviously Draymond is not something you can make happen right away. Turnovers are something you can. You can take care of the basketball. You can make sure you don't commit blatant offensive fouls like Bjelica did last night in that game when he was dribbling the ball before. I thought that was funny because it was very obvious, and I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, give the ball to a ball handler if you're going to do that. But to me, the biggest key, other than Draymond Green coming back, it's one player. There's one player that I think is going to be the difference in whether or not they do contend for a title and whether or not they can get out of the West. Because if you look at the way that every year under the Steve Kerr era has gone, yes, Steph Curry's there, Klay Thompson's there, Draymond Green's there. I'm not worried about those guys. I am worried about Steph Curry's efficiency because he's taken more three-pointers in the last 2 years than he ever has in any season. And this year, the efficiency is way down. Okay, but like I said, I can't get on Steph Curry for games like last night. So I'm worried about his efficiency as we enter the playoffs and the defense gets tougher. But the one player that I think is the key to be that third guy, like Harrison Barnes contributing, or Leandro Barbosa, or Sean Livingston, or Andre Iguodala. Obviously Kevin Durant, but obviously they're not going to get someone to produce at a Kevin Durant level. The key player is Andrew Wiggins. He is the key because there are going to be games where Steph Curry's getting clamped up. Just because he's 6'3", 195 pounds, everyone's going to double him. He's going to get blitzed as soon as the ball's inbounded. Klay's not the best ball handler, so automatically it's not like he's going to be like Kyrie Irving getting shots over everybody. It's not going to happen. Draymond Green's not exactly a scorer, but he'll show up and he'll create shots for you. It's just a matter of can you put the ball in the basket. Andrew Wiggins is the key. Because you look at the other role players, and this is why role players are important too, because when you get to the playoffs, you maybe only get like 7 to 8 shots a game, maybe. So every miss, it matters. And every make is a great impact for your team. It just carries a lot more weight every opportunity you have as a role player. And Andrew Wiggins is right in that middle ground. He's not a role player, but he's not like one of their superstar players either. But he is one of their best players. He was an all-star starter. You're playing the best season of your career. You're shooting better than you ever have. You're playing great defense. Can you come through to produce? Because there are games like last night where Andrew Wiggins, you played decent. Like I said, you played okay. But you were on the floor when the team was struggling to score against a Dallas team that was storming their way back. That is a situation where can I trust Andrew Wiggins to put the team on his back for, a couple minutes when Steph Curry has to sit? Is he going to stay assertive? Is he going to be consistent in his aggression on offense? Because that was the number one complaint from fans in Minnesota about Andrew Wiggins. It was never a question really about his talent. Yes, there was the doubts about his jump shot and the 3-point shot, but he's gotten better at that. That's not an issue anymore. The issue with Andrew Wiggins, his whole career has been he just looks like sometimes he doesn't care. Maybe the motor isn't as high as it is. And that's why high motor is really important to coaches and scouts and general managers. it looks like sometimes he's not being as assertive as he should be. And like I said, there's going to be games where Steph has a rough game. Klay's going to have a rough game. Draymond's not a scorer. Andrew Wiggins has to be that guy where you can take a guy to the basket. You can take a guy into the post. And you can take that jump shot. And I've seen him take a lot of nice step backs from mid-range. And he has that little spin move where he takes a shot off a dribble on that spin. He's got moves. And he's got ability and strength to get to the rim. He's really athletic. He has a good first step. He's really explosive. And the sweet number for him, and I was just looking up a lot of numbers to try to find things that would indicate the impact that this team has. Like if there was one thing, like what are some identifiers to show, oh, this is really key for them? And I found a weird one here. And I think it perfectly speaks to Andrew Wiggins' assertiveness in games with the Warriors. So 13 is the number. When Andrew Wiggins attempts 13 shots or more, just attempting, just if he attempts 13 shots or more, the Warriors are 26-8. That's a really good record. 26-8 when he's attempting 13 shots or more. Now, the all-star starter, if he's attempting less than 13 shots, if he's not being as aggressive, they're 13-8. So same amount of losses, but you only got 13 wins because it's less games, but clearly in that smaller sample size of games, the 21 games where he takes less than 13 shots, they're not as successful. And that's why in the playoffs, the rotation shrinks. The star players will get more shots. The role players will get less shots. And Andrew Wiggins is one of their best players. He's going to get more shots. And when you are awarded the green light to have more shots, you can't take a night off where you're like, no, I'm just going to be passive today. You can't do that. And last night is a game where I can get on Andrew Wiggins a little bit just for that fourth quarter. Everything else was okay, but just for that fourth quarter, I can get on Andrew Wiggins because, dude, if you're on the floor and Jordan Poole's struggling, which he's got to step up to, if Moses Moody is giving you little to nothing tonight and he's starting alongside you and Steph Curry's on the bench because he's got a lot of minutes and he needs to get a little bit of rest, I need you to do something. I need you to get to the line. I need you to go to the post and use one of your moves. Like, if you want, I don't care. Wave off the other guys. If Draymond's not playing and Klay's not playing, you got like Damian Lee, Juan Toscano, whoever's out there, wave them off and go to the basket. Take your man one-on-one. You are a number one overall pick. You have the talent to do it. His aggression is going to be very key to whether or not the Warriors can even make it out of the West. Because when you play a team like Memphis, John Morant's not taking any nights off. Desmond Bane is not taking any nights off. Jonas Valanciunas is not going to take a night off. And I'm just saying, I'm not saying Steph and Klay are going to, but there's going to be a night where nothing's going to fall for them. The defense is going to be too physical for one of them. But you're the guy with the physical ability, right? So Andrew Wiggins to me is a huge key into whether or not they'll win a title. And to finishing off this regular season to try to hold that 2 seed. I really don't think they will. And like I said, the way they are right now, they're not going to win a championship, but that can change. Now, that could be the biggest factor to them winning without Draymond Green as well. Because like I said last year, it can't just be every time last week, as I said in last week's episode, it can't be every time Draymond Green is out, the team plays like shit. That is not a good enough excuse. It's not a good enough excuse. You're a team with depth. So someone needs to step up. I'm looking at the Phoenix Suns and Chris Paul's out for a while, right? But they're going to get better. So it's not the worst thing in the world for them that Chris Paul's out. Why? They're going to run away with the first seed at this point. If you look at the way the Warriors are playing, they're going to run away with the first seed. I think the Grizzlies are a little too far back to come back, even if the Suns played like shit. And it's not going to happen. They're too disciplined of a team. And you look at the game they played on Sunday against the Jazz. They had an opportunity to make something happen. They had a possession to give themselves a chance. They don't call timeout when they had one. I'm not sure if they knew they had one or not. Jay Crowder is bringing the ball up the floor, doesn't really know what to do with it, throws the ball out of bounds. That is a perfect example as to how the Suns are struggling or are going to struggle when Chris Paul's not on the floor in the fourth quarter in a close game. Because that's the thing about the Suns, is they just win all these close games. Their execution late in games in crunch time is impeccable. The Warriors are the complete opposite. Right? Chris Paul is the floor general. Now that they're going to be forced to play a lot of games without that floor general, without that decision maker on the court, it's going to force all these other role players that have never won a championship before to step up in those moments, and they'll be better for it when they get into the playoffs. The Warriors, for whatever reason, when Draymond Green's out, can't figure it out. They had a 9-game winning streak. And that still hasn't changed my mind about how they are without Draymond Green, because even after that 9-game winning streak, they're 15-12 without Draymond Green this season. To put that into perspective, they've lost 12 games this year in the 27 that Draymond Green has been out. They have 18 losses all season. 6 of their losses, only 6 of their losses, Draymond Green was playing. The other 12, he was not. That's alarming that your losses double when Draymond Green is out. That's a huge impact for a guy who doesn't even actively try to score the basketball. That's how good of a defender and initiator it is. That's how important he is to this team. But you need to figure that out. You can't, every single time you get on the court, you can't just say, oh, we're shorthanded and just blow a fucking 20-point lead. That can't happen in the playoffs. You're telling me that if they get into the playoffs and they're in like the second or third round, I'm now saying to myself, if they're up by 25 points in the third quarter, I'm saying to myself, I wonder how close this team is going to make it. Because clearly the Warriors are not going to hold this lead. In fact, this thing might come down to the very end. That's not good, man. That's not good. You're supposed to hold those leads. Even if you take like a 20-point lead and it gets down to like 9, okay. But you're losing by multiple possessions all of a sudden by the end of the game. You're not winning a championship like that, I'm sorry. It's not like Dallas is the best playoff team out there. Yeah, they're going to make the playoffs, but they're not Phoenix. They're not the Brooklyn Nets with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. They're not the Miami Heat with that loaded roster. They're not the Chicago Bulls. This is a team that has Luka, and other than that, no help. No real championship level support. Role players can't come through. You need role players to hit shots. And it's also at home. Role players always play better at home. And you lose a game like that on your home court. That's awful. That's really, really awful. And the Warriors, you want to know the most alarming stat that I pulled up for today? This one's, get ready for this one. This one is more telling, I think, than any statistic anyone can ever bring up to me about the Golden State Warriors this season. Because this talks about, this shows you factual evidence of close games and their success rate in those close games. In the playoffs, games are going to be very close. Shots are going to come tougher. Less easy opportunities in the paint and beyond the arc. Free throws are so crucial. When a game is decided by 5 points or less, the Golden State Warriors this season are 9-18. Bet you didn't know that one. I didn't until I was just fucking around looking for things to identify about this team. I understood the whole time they were not good without Draymond. I understood the whole time that Andrew Wiggins is always going to be better. They're always going to be better when Andrew Wiggins is aggressive. You look at like that game he had against Minnesota at home that one night. 9-18 in games decided by 5 points or less. You're not executing the close ones. When the pressure's on, when every shot counts a lot more, when every mistake is more magnified, when every possession is more important. In those games, you're not winning these games. You got a 33 win percentage. So you're telling me if just by the math, I know this isn't how this stuff works, but just by the math, you're going to lose one of you're going to win one of every 3 games in the playoffs if they're all decided by 5 points or less. That's a 3-1 deficit right there. That's not good. That's really not good. And that's an understatement. 9-18 when games are decided by 5 points or less. That's really awful. That's awful. I mean, it's crazy to look at because you feel like this is a team that should be closing people out. Because even shorthanded, this is a much better roster, in my opinion, than a lot of other teams out there. First of all, you got Steph Curry. Then you got Andrew Wiggins. And then you got Looney, who's been great. And you got Jordan Poole, who was awesome this year. Gary Payton, who's been a defensive weapon. Jonathan Kuminga, who's been a stud 19-year-old. 9-18? Like, those guys should be good enough. And you know what? That to me speaks a lot of inexperience as well. It shows me a lot of inexperience as well because the reality is the only guys that are very, very experienced on this team that actually play on a consistent basis in championship level situations, Steph Curry, Clay, and Draymond. And Looney. Looney as well. I would say Andre Iguodala, but the dude barely plays this year. I think that was a game last night where if Andre Iguodala was playing, that could have helped a lot. Even though he's a lot older now, just having that guy out there to help run things and just be a leader on defense, that could help. They're going to need Andre to play more. It feels like the dude, I almost forget that he was on the team. I was so excited when they brought him back. And sometimes I honestly forget he's on this team because he's just always hurt. He's just never playing. That's been a disappointment to me. I really think that he could have been giving them a lot more solid minutes this year, especially with Draymond Green out. He's a very valuable guy on defense, a very valuable communicator and leader, and I just really hope that he's able to play more for them because I honestly think that's a dude I would give minutes to in the playoffs. That's a dude I would give a lot of minutes to in the playoffs because I want that leader, I want that experience. One of the criticisms that the Cleveland Cavaliers were getting in 2015 when they made the finals, and that was when the Warriors beat them the first time, was that the veterans on that roster, even if they were at the back end of their careers, they weren't getting minutes. And that's what people were criticizing David Blatt for at the time was you're not playing your veterans. And Andre Iguodala, if he can play, that'll help. But he's not playing a lot. So if you're 9-18 in games that are decided by 5 points or less, you're in for a really bad reality check when you get to the playoffs and you play these teams that are hungry for those moments, like the Memphis Grizzlies. John Morant loves those moments. Chris Paul is itching to get a ring. Every game matters the same amount to him, whether it's regular season or postseason. You're in for a real bad reality check if you're mentally checking out of games in the second half. That to me it's showing me lack of leadership. They need leadership. And it's not just Draymond being out, Steph Curry, Steve Kerr, anybody that's a veteran. If these guys are going out there, if Jordan Poole's going out there and getting you zero field goals made, if Moses Moody's going out there and giving you 5 points, if anyone's looking less aggressive, or if anyone is just looking like they're not focused, there needs to be a switch there. Someone needs to step up and say, hey, this shit can't continue. Because you're trying to win a title. If this was happening in November or December, I'd be like, all right, well, fuck it, whatever. It can blow away. And it can blow off and you'll be fine. You can fix this. You've only got like 20 games or so before the playoffs roll around and you haven't played with your actual starting lineup yet. You're going to have to build a rhythm with that lineup too. So if you can't figure this shit out, you're going to be a complete mess when you get into mid-April. You don't want that if you're Golden State. And Draymond, he's got to be at 100%. And back injuries, it's not promising. If he's not, like, he did practice for the first time since January, but back injuries are never a good thing. especially if you're this close to the playoffs. Can you really count on him to be 100%? Are you getting 100% Draymond, or are you getting like 70%? Because he's a big man. He guards big physical guys in the post. If you're playing that physical and you have a back injury, that's pretty worrisome. So we're going to have to see. We're going to have to monitor the Draymond situation. And I'm telling you, keep an eye on Andrew Wiggins. Keep an eye on his level of assertiveness in games, because that to me is going to be very key, especially in those minutes where it's the fourth quarter and Steph Curry's on the bench. Pay attention to that. Pay attention to if he's just looking way too passive, or if he's playing like, yeah, he's looking for a shot. Sometimes, I will admit, I have seen that from him, where sometimes it looks like he's not really attempting to score, not really looking for a shot. But if he's looking for a shot, pay attention to that. Pay attention to that. I didn't realize that statistic until earlier this week, just looking that stuff up. So let's get into the rest of the NBA. Let's get into the NBA playoff preview. Now, I'm going to start with the Lakers. And I'm not going to go through every team, but I'm going to go through teams I think we got to watch and look at the current seedings. But the Lakers are an amazing story to me because it's such a flop. The NBA really tried to sell everyone on the Battle of LA. What a flop. What a flop that was. And I don't even know if the Lakers are going to make the playoffs, man. I don't know. I'm looking at the Lakers and seeing the way they played against New Orleans last night too. And I'm sitting there like, oh my God. Because obviously if they make the playoffs, they have to go through the play-in tournament. And that's one and done. And I'm just sitting there, or depends how the tournament's going for you. Actually depends where you're at. But I'm just sitting there thinking to myself like, I don't even know if they can win a play-in game. I don't know if they'll beat Portland when Damian Lillard comes back. I don't know if they're going to beat the Clippers. Because I've seen them lose to the Clippers too without Paul George and Kawhi. So I'm just in my head thinking, oh my God, LeBron James as a Los Angeles Laker, his time as a Los Angeles Laker is going to be looked at very poorly. Even with that championship, because with franchises like the Lakers, their expectations are through the roof. They're really, really high. You want a championship in a really weird season because the pandemic happened. There was a pause. Rosters were looking completely different. You were in the bubble. Some people can say it's more difficult. I can agree that, yeah, it's probably a more difficult environment, but I'm also sitting there at the same time thinking it's not even the same season anymore. The bubble's a completely different year. It was a completely different season. Let's be real about that. It was a completely different season. Rosters were different. The Lakers will maybe miss the playoffs 2 of LeBron's 4 years in LA. That's really... I don't think any one of us saw that coming. And especially after Anthony Davis trade and all that. But think about this. LeBron James's whole move to Los Angeles to become a Laker, one of the biggest organizations in all sports, they may never get a home game in the NBA Finals. The Laker fans may never get to go to an NBA Finals game with LeBron James as a Laker in person. Think about that. Think about the day that signing happened and what you imagine. Like, oh my gosh, if LeBron takes the Lakers to the finals and you got like Staples Center, or it's now Crypto.com Arena, with all the fans in there and the atmosphere, that may never happen. But even if they make the playoffs, who do they play? Shit, they might beat the Warriors at this point. I don't know. If Draymond Green comes back, I think they'll still beat the Lakers. Now I'm just being a little too harsh. Lakers look awful. They look awful. Russell Westbrook is not the whole problem, but a problem. I think what could solve the Lakers' problem, but I think it's too late, is Russell Westbrook coming off the bench. And I was saying this weeks ago, Russell Westbrook and LeBron James cannot coexist. Their play styles, they're both ball dominant. Russell Westbrook's not a good shooter. You can't have 2 ball dominant guys and one of them not be a good shooter and have them play at the same time. It doesn't mean Russell Westbrook can't be on the team. They just can't be on the court at the same time too much. You can decide when and when you don't want him on the court with LeBron, but the reality is you need to run things through LeBron. And you also need to run things through Westbrook at the same time. How do you do that? You put Russell Westbrook on the bench and make him the sixth man. You just do. And a lot of guys find that as an insult. But you need to realize that sometimes is not an insult. Sometimes it's actually a compliment. When you look at the Golden State Warriors when they had Andre Iguodala, he started, right? So he started when Mark Jackson was there for his final season. Harrison Barnes came off the bench. Didn't look very good. The bench wasn't very good. And people thought, wow, Harrison Barnes had a bit of a drop-off. So Steve Kerr comes into town, and what does he do? He tells Andre, I need you to come off the bench. And Andre is not happy with it. Obviously, he started his whole career. Like, clearly, he's a better player than Harrison Barnes. So, like, why the hell am I coming off the bench, right? The reason he had him do that, the reason he had Andre Iguodala come off the bench was because Harrison Barnes and his skill set was not suitable enough to lead a second unit. But Andre Iguodala could. Andre Iguodala could lead a second unit. And not only would he be able to lead the second unit, he'd be able to, or Harrison Barnes would be able to get in rhythm by playing with the starters. Having Steph Curry, for instance, being on the court with him, it's just going to open things up. Klay Thompson being there is going to open things up. So by playing them together, it allows you to maximize Harrison Barnes because he's going to get easier opportunities. He's going to be able to play with the starters, alleviates a lot of pressure off him. And Andre Iguodala has been around a while, can be used more as a leader, and run that bench. Russell Westbrook had all those great teammates. He's never won a title. He played with Kevin Durant, James Harden, Serge Ibaka, Paul George, Carmelo Anthony, James Harden again. He's never won a title. And when he shines, like look at the season he won MVP. Triple doubles, team wasn't very good. Like his team around him was not very good. But he shined because he could be the alpha. He could be the initiator of everything. You can't do that if LeBron James is your teammate. That's never going to happen unless you're on the floor at a different time than him, which is why it would be so perfect for the Lakers if Russell Westbrook did come off the bench, because LeBron would be able to lead, and you'd be able to maximize LeBron and Anthony Davis, right? When AD does come back, that is, if he comes back. I have no idea what's going on with that injury. That's bad news for them. But if Russell Westbrook comes off the bench, you allow him to shine too, because he gets to play with other bench players, and that's when he can shine. That's when Russ can just go be Russ. He doesn't have to worry about coexisting with LeBron. That style of play was never going to work. I don't expect anything from the Lakers. Maybe they surprise people winning around. I doubt it because of the teams they'd have to face, but I doubt it. So let's see if they even make the playoffs. I think that's something interesting to look at. I just want to bring that up first. They're not really title contenders. So let's go to the East. And this is the big one, right? It's the Brooklyn Nets getting Ben Simmons. And people are constantly saying, Brooklyn won the trade. They got rid of Harden and they get Ben Simmons, who can be the creator. Listen, I see the benefit to Ben Simmons. I do. I see the benefit to Ben Simmons. But I'm not sold that they really won that trade. I'm not sold. I get it, but Ben Simmons can't shoot. Not only can he not shoot, he knows he can't shoot, and he's afraid to shoot. If you have a guy that's afraid, that's not a good sign in the playoffs. We all saw what happened in that Atlanta series. The dude was terrified. He was terrified. Now, the way you can benefit with Ben Simmons on Brooklyn, if you look at Philly, there weren't really other primary ball handlers to run the offense. It was really only Ben Simmons. So now that you're in Brooklyn, Kyrie Irving's there. Kevin Durant is there. You have other guys that can, handle the ball, initiate offense, and you can use him as a ball screener more because of that. So you can run more pick and roll with Ben Simmons. He's obviously going to be able to defend the best player on the floor every single night. That I think is the biggest plus for the Brooklyn Nets getting Ben Simmons. The biggest thing, though, is always can he handle the pressure. My strategy, if I was a coach, when it came to the Brooklyn Nets before the trade, so when James Harden was there, was you need to double and deny Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving the basketball. And you need to kind of play a little bit off of James Harden when he has the ball and just dare him to take those three-pointers all night. And if he beats you because he knocks them all down, tip your cap to him. But more realistically, you probably would miss a bunch and just kind of take opportunities away from Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving from doing so, and shoot them out of rhythm. That's not the way he wants to play anyways. He wants to get to the rim. Don't let him get by you. Play a little loose. Dare him to take the three. Make him beat you from out there. But now that James Harden's gone, that strategy goes out the window. Now, I would maybe do the same thing to Philadelphia. I would probably do the same thing against the Sixers, just make James Harden try to beat me from the three-point line. Now with the Nets, what I'm doing, if it's my strategy, I'm doing something very similar, where I'm just going to say, Ben Simmons, beat me. Like, beat my team. Beat my team single-handedly. Go be the alpha scorer. You can't just sit there and wait for the lob. You can't just be the screener. Hell no. I'm not giving Kevin Durant those one-on-ones in ISO. I'm not giving Kyrie Irving those one-on-ones. I'm going to leave you to use every double team I possibly can to take out your two star players. And you're going to have to beat me because, listen, if Ben Simmons is the one being left open from a double team, if you're getting the ball out and you're double teamed, you know there's someone wide open. You have to go to Ben Simmons. So if you have to go to Ben Simmons, you're putting the ball in his hands, and he's got the most to prove this year. Listen, this is a dude who showed up to practice with sweatpants and his cell phone in his pocket. This is a dude who, I don't know if it's true or not. I've heard there's been lots of meetings because, him meeting with a therapist and all that for his mental health stuff that he's been going through. And I take that stuff very seriously. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure there's something in CBA where if you're taking time off because of mental health reasons, they still have to pay you. I'm pretty sure that there's something there. And now he's not in game shape. Now he's got a back issue. And you hear Danny Green on his podcast basically daring Ben Simmons to play in that Philadelphia game. I remember the reports are saying that Ben Simmons doesn't want to play in front of those fans anymore. There's just more and more things that lead me to believe that you are scared. There's certain things to make me believe that you're just afraid of the moment. How can you not be in game shape at this point? Because you're in the middle of your career. You're a physical specimen. You're a beast, right? Joe Johnson came out of nowhere on a 10-day contract and played for the Celtics. Isaiah Thomas, who had all his hip issues a while ago too, undersized guy, does not have the advantage physically. He's coming on some 10 days and he's played. How the hell are you out of game shape if you're Ben Simmons to go out there and not shoot the ball? You're not in game shape to go play defense? How the hell are you not in game shape? That to me is a little weird. I'm putting the game in his hands. That's my mindset. I'm putting the game in his hands. I would even intentionally foul the shit out of him and dare him to beat me at the free throw line because what I've seen is you're afraid of the free throw line. You're afraid to go there. And listen, if the Nets beat you that way, you tip your cap to him. You tip your cap to Ben Simmons. But it takes opportunities away from Kevin Durant. It takes opportunities away from Kyrie Irving. It also puts the whole offense out of rhythm. So that's my mindset. I'm just putting the game in Ben Simmons' hands as much as I possibly can. I'm making him beat my team. I'm not going to let Kevin Durant go off for like 50 and 11. Not going to do that. Ben Simmons, go be the X factor. I'm not just going to let him sit down there and do nothing scoring-wise. I do, however, still think that the Brooklyn Nets should be able to get to the Western Conference Finals. I still don't see Philly getting there. I just don't. As good as Joel Embiid is, if you look at the way the league's been in recent years, you don't win championships by building your team from the inside out. You build your team from the outside in. These centers, because of that, have had to start shooting the three ball. That's why they've had to stretch out to the three-point lines, because you look at the Warriors and the way they changed the game. Now, all of a sudden, if you're a center, you got to be able to shoot that three, or else you're far less valuable to me. And I don't think you can win a win a championship where your team is built around your center. And James Harden being there is great. I think that helps them out a lot. However, I've also seen James Harden choke multiple times in the playoffs. I've seen James Harden disappear in the biggest moments. I don't know if a combination, I just feel like I've seen better teams with James Harden not make the finals. And if your second best player is a center, I just don't see it. Because what happened in their debut, they got to the free throw line a lot. That shit's not going to happen in the playoffs. When you get deep in the playoffs, it's not going to happen. You're not going to get to the line as much as you do now. Because referees are going to let you play. They're going to let you be more physical. And I do trust Ben Simmons guarding James Harden. I do. And Kevin Durant's not a bad defender either. So I think they can get to the conference finals. I don't think Philly's going to get there. I think even with James Harden and Tobias and Embiid, they still need more pieces. I know Maxey and Thibault are there, but they need more pieces. But the Milwaukee Bucks, I think everyone's still sleeping on the Bucks. I really do. Listen, the beginning of the year started awful. They had some injuries. People got COVID. If you have Giannis Antetokounmpo on your team, and Chris Middleton still there with him, and Drew Holiday's there, why can't they go win a series or two and possibly make it back to the finals? I think they easily could. I really think they easily could. I don't know why people are counting the Milwaukee Bucks out so quickly. I guess it's because there's so much excitement with the Sixers and the Nets. I don't know why people are counting out the Bucks. Teams I don't think that'll make it to the conference finals that a lot of people might think. I don't think the Heat will make it. I know they're first in the East right now, but I just don't see a team that's led by Jimmy Butler. Like, that was a bubble anomaly. Like, it happened in the bubble. I don't think it's going to happen again when you have Kevin Durant playing in the playoffs. I don't see that happening. I don't see the Chicago Bulls making it either. As great as DeMar DeRozan's been, as good as Zach LaVine has been, they're not beating a team like the Nets. They're not going to beat a team like Philadelphia, I don't think. It's a team that still is a few pieces away. Give them a little bit of time. I don't see it happening with them. I think the two teams to watch are the Bucks and the Nets. Just like last year. If Kevin Durant's shoe size was like 1.5 smaller, he ends the Bucks season, and then the Nets probably go to the finals. So I think those are the two teams to watch in the East. Now, the teams to watch in the West, obviously, Suns are there. The Warriors are up there too, despite all the criticism that I just gave them. The Grizzlies are even there too. Believe it or not, the Grizzlies have officially entered that conversation. Ja dropped 46 the other night, and they're about to catch the Warriors for that second seed. They're legit. They were able to win a ton of games when Ja Morant was out. That is a deep roster. That's a team that knows how to play together. They're ready for the moment. They don't have the experience, but they're not a team that's going to shy away and play like a shell of themselves because they're nervous. Clearly, that's not the team they are. Now, with the Suns, Chris Paul's injury, it's something to really monitor. Now, I think it could turn out being a good thing for them because, like I said earlier, role players are going to learn how to close out those games. But also, what if it lingers? What if it's not exactly an 8-week thing? What if it ends up being more like a 10-week thing? Or what if it should be a 10-week thing, but he's like, no, to hell with that, I'm going to play, and he's just compromised? Because Chris Paul, and it's really crazy this happened, if you watch basketball, you understand that Chris Paul has the tendency to just get hurt in the playoffs. And that is like a curse for Chris Paul. He just keeps getting hurt in the playoffs. And now you have an injury that may go into the playoffs. That's dangerous for Phoenix. So that's something to really keep an eye on, is Chris Paul's health. Because I know it's going to be good for them. They're going to have more experience closing out games without him there. But at the same time, he is their best initiator. He's their best decision maker. So I still think they're the favorites to get out of the West. I've seen that team up close a lot this year, and they just always find a way. They just, in the close games, like, they just don't lose. I just can't explain it. They just don't find a way to lose. It's like they're the most disciplined team in the whole NBA right now. The Warriors are a team with loaded talent, and I think the best players on the Warriors are better than the best players on the Suns. The difference is the Suns are just way more disciplined, and the Warriors are not. So when you have talent and you have depth and you have discipline, you can get to a finals because of that stuff, obviously. So the Warriors lacking that discipline and also lacking the health. I don't know if they'll get there. I do still think in my heart that Draymond Green's going to get healthy enough and they will meet each other in the conference finals. And like I said last week, it could be a matter of who's healthier. If Chris Paul's hurt, does that linger? Does someone else get her in the playoffs? Draymond Green, how early can he come back? How early can Wiseman come back? It's all, we're just going to have to see. We're just going to have to wait and see. But I think the 4 teams, my top 4 teams to win the championship this year, in no particular order. You've got the Suns, the Nets, the Warriors, and the Bucks. To me, those are the top 4 teams going into the NBA playoffs. I don't think any other team will win. I don't. It's really hard to win a championship. You got to go through 4 teams. You got to beat them all 4 times. Talent will bail you out of situations, but also experience matters. And when I look at other teams, I don't see the experience. Like the Suns made it to the finals. Like the 4 teams I mentioned, all of them been in finals except for the Nets. But the players on the Brooklyn Nets, you have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, who have both been huge and critical to championship wins earlier in their careers. So because of them being there, you just look at the overall experience. The Nuggets don't have experience in the finals. The Mavericks, no way. The Lakers have some experience, obviously, and you have LeBron James, but you just have a bad team. It's a bad roster. If LeBron James and Anthony Davis weren't on that roster, I have no idea what the hell they'd be. Like, probably one of the worst teams in the league. The Heat, sure, you have some experience, but I just feel like you don't have that overwhelming talent to me that's going to beat the Brooklyn Nets. Like when you played in the finals that year in the bubble, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving weren't playing. So to me, you don't have that overwhelming talent that I think is really going to elevate you over Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, because those are 2 guys in the playoffs where they're going to get theirs and there ain't a damn thing you can do about it. Like I remember vividly in the finals when Cleveland was playing the Warriors, like there were those games where like Kyrie Irving and LeBron would go off for 41 apiece. Why can't Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving do the same thing? So Giannis Antetokounmpo, finals MVP. Chris Middleton was the Robin to his Batman. And then you got Drew Holiday, who's a really good defender as well and good point guard. They've got some good role players there too. Why can't they get back? Why does everyone keep counting them out so badly? Like seriously, go look at the beginning of the year, look at the injuries they had, the people they had on COVID protocol. It was tough. It was pretty tough for them, to say the least. And then the Suns have been, other than like the first like 10 games of the season, they've been the best team in the league. The Warriors are up there as well. They just have had a lot of injuries. And it's really remarkable, as much as I've dug into the Warriors. They're second place, and I say this all the time, they haven't had their actual starting lineup play. And I'm more concerned about it than I was before because I'm really realizing how little time they have till the playoffs, and you need to get that rhythm going. If someone can find this example, send it my way. Someone find me an example of a team who didn't have their actual starting lineup play until the last 15-ish games of the season, and then they won the championship or even made it to the finals. That's just really strange. That's really strange. You know, like when they first got Kevin Durant, for instance, or like when you first form some sort of super team or whatever, they say like, okay, give them like 20 games to mesh, give them like 20 games to figure it out. This is the first time your actual full strength team is going to play. This is something you usually get in the beginning of the year and figure it out as the years go on, or as the year goes on. But you're going to get this at the very end of the season, and then all of a sudden, boom, playoffs. Completely different atmosphere. That's just, I don't know. That to me, I don't think anything like that's ever been done. In my opinion, I don't think anything like that has ever been done in the NBA. If there has been an example and I'm not thinking of it, please send it my way, because I'd be really interested to see more of that context. But that would be really remarkable if the Warriors can pull something off like that. Like think that would feel like stealing a championship. If you can get like a top 3 seed, you don't play your actual starting lineup until mid-March, and you win the title. Holy shit! Like you stole a ring. Like at that point, like that's how that would feel. That would be. I think that's the most adversity that they would ever have in any of their championships. The most adversity, and there was more adversity than people thought when Kevin Durant was there. Like there was more than you think. Like 2018, even they had a lot of injuries throughout the whole year. It was really hard to get them in rhythm, but they were just much better than the Cavs. And then obviously they had to go through the Rockets a couple times. So there's more adversity than you think. But this would be like the most they've ever faced under the Steve Kerr era. And it's going to be a really tall task. It's going to be a very, very tall task. I'm not really worried about Klay Thompson. I think Klay's going to be Klay, especially by the time the playoffs come around. Steph Curry needs to get his efficiency up, but I think that when he gets to the playoffs, I think he has that level of, he's going to ramp up his intensity. Draymond Green, he will be back. Some people are trying to act like he won't be back. He will be back. Okay, obviously it's a back injury, but he's going to be back in time. I just don't know how much earlier he will be back. And also Wiseman hasn't played. That's another aspect. That's going to give Looney some relief. And they need Wiseman because when you play Phoenix and they've got JaVale McGee now, they didn't have that size in the finals last year. You need someone to match up in those minutes when Kevon Looney's going to sit. You need that 7-foot presence. So it's going to be really interesting to see. Those are my 4 teams, though, as we're previewing the playoffs. I think those are the 4 teams that'll win the title. I don't really give a shit about seed, like in terms of like where you're at in the conference seeding, just because COVID really changed the league a lot. That's why we have the play-in tournament now. It changed the league a lot. So COVID on top of injuries, you're just gonna lose more games. You're even the good teams, like they come into fucking contact with someone that had germs, and now they're out for like a week or 2. You're gonna lose games. Like you're having more missed games because of that than a regular season without COVID, because it's just like added on injuries in a way, if you want to call it injuries, whatever you want to call it. That's why we had Joe Johnson coming out of nowhere to play minutes for the Celtics. That's why we had Isaiah Thomas in the league. I thought for a second Jamal Crawford was about to get a 10-day. Like it got that serious. It was like, oh my gosh, all these guys are getting. Mario Chalmers got a 10-day. So I'm not looking at the playoff seeding too crucially, which is why I'm saying the Warriors, they don't really need the first seed. They may lose the second seed. It's not the end of the world. It's just a matter of when you get to the playoffs, do you have your shit figured out? Are you as a team in sync? And are you ready for the moment? Andrew Wiggins is the key for me for the Golden State Warriors. Draymond Green will be back. A lot of that will revert to normal. But the key, when the playoffs come around and the games change and the moment gets bigger, the lights get brighter, Andrew Wiggins is going to be the key. Are you going to be that third guy, or are you going to do what you did in Minnesota and shy away? Because he's never been in this situation before. He's never been in this big stage before. I think he played one playoff series in Minnesota in the first round, and that was it. But this is not a team that should lose in the first round. This is a team, if Draymond Green's back and if he's healthy, they should be title contenders. The way they're playing right now, they're not title contenders, but I think that'll change. Now, they are in trouble. Let's let that be known. They are in trouble. Let's not act like they're not in trouble. But it's fixable. So I tell people, whenever I say someone's in trouble or a team is, not in a good spot, I always let them know when it's fixable so that people don't just call me a hater. Like the Trey Lance situation, national media trying to say like he's not ready. Like it's fixable stuff. Yes, there's stuff wrong, but it's fixable. So same thing with the Warriors. Their issues are fixable. Will they fix it is the question. And we're going to have a whole other week go by. And we're going to have to wait and see. And I'll revisit that this next week when I come back with the 4th episode for the Polo Show. Let's see how the Warriors do in this next week. Let's see how they play. Let's see how the Suns play as well. See how the rest of the NBA playoff standings are shaping out. And also we'll, of course, pay close attention to the 49ers over the next week, too. I'll give you some more 49ers content coming up just because we're getting closer to free agency. We're getting into March in this next episode. That Jimmy Garoppolo trade should happen anytime now within the next few weeks. Free agency is going to come around. We'll see if they re-sign Raheem Mostert. We've got some other people that are hitting free agency. So there's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about 49ers related, which is why I'm saving it till we get a little closer and start to actually know a little bit more. But today I really wanted to dive into the NBA and the Warriors because we're getting very close. It may feel like the playoffs are far away, but they're really not. They're right around the corner. We got one more full month of a regular season, and then we are into the playoffs. So make sure, once again, follow us at the Polo Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Music, whatever platform you're using right now. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you and appreciate you as well. Subscribe to the channel and make sure you drop a like and turn on those notifications so you can be notified when the newest episodes drop. I do want to still try to do this every Monday. Mondays or Sundays, those are the days I'm looking to do this, and I really appreciate all the people who listen. I've definitely been able to see that, we're growing an audience through different platforms, because at first we started just on YouTube. So it's really great to see that. Really excited to see where this takes us. I'm still networking, so we'll see if I can get other people on the show as well. And I will see you all next week. Thanks for tuning in.